Okay, so now we've got the backing, and we'll go on with the soloing. I'll skip the melody because the melody is very easy. I guess you can figure it out for yourself. And especially if I explain you the scales and what you can play, you'll very easily find out what the melody is. So I'm going to continue with the scales to play on each chord. Let's start again with the B minor chord. Well, obviously what you would play is a B minor scale. In this case it would be the natural scale, which also works with the next chord. So you can use the same scale for these both two chords. So then B minor natural, so you can play that over this chord, and also over this chord. And in fact also on the next chord, because this A11th chord contains basically all the same notes as the E minor 7th. It just has an A in the bass. So it's not really different. So you can still keep playing with the same scale. The only difference here is that you might emphasize some notes a little bit more, because for instance when you're playing the the A11th chord, then one of the important notes here is G, which is still part of the B minor scale, but when you're playing a B minor chord, the G could occur somewhere, but you would probably not emphasize it a lot. But the G marks the G, you could say, marks the change from B minor to the next two chords, to E minor and A11th. So as soon as you change from this to this, well, you can already hear in the chord, this G appears. So it would make sense to also emphasize that a little bit in your solo, even though you don't have to, but it would help to make the change from B minor to E minor heard. F sharp, E minor with the G, and A11 also with the G. Then the next chord, it was the D major 7th. Well, D major 7th and B minor are in fact the same basic scale. So it's in fact also the D major scale. So again, really nothing changes. See how easy this is. It's all the same scale. Now I'm going to move to the G chord, but in between there's this short transition where we play the A flat 9 minus 5. Let's check the notes again. So that's A flat, G flat, B flat and D. Now, on this transition, you can play very well the altered scale of D, which is D, so this sounds good on this chord. And then you move to G major. Well, G major, you can again keep playing in the B minor or D major scale. And also the next chord. And also the next chord. And then on this last chord, before you go back to B minor, you could play still the B minor scale. But you probably would need to avoid the D, because that's really the only note that doesn't really fit very well there. Because you can imagine that I can play this chord like this, the F sharp 11 or sus, but I can also play it like this. if you listen carefully, then you will hear a D sharp in there. So when I play it like this, the D sharp is not so obvious, but if I play it like this, it is. So depending on what's happening in the backing track, you might hear the D sharp, and you have to be a little bit careful about playing what notes to play there, because if you still keep playing B minor and you play a D in this place, it wouldn't sound very good. If with this chord you would play this note, doesn't sound so good. So you can keep thinking about the B minor scale but avoiding the D, or you can think about a totally different scale, which in this case would be B major. Because if you just take this chord separately without the context, it sounds really as if it's going to B major. So if you look at it from that point of view, you'd say, okay, so you would play a B major scale here. And even though the song is in minor, at this particular place you could in fact play the B major scale, but only on this chord. So you have two options. Basically you can play the B major scale on this chord alone, or you can keep thinking and playing in the B minor scale, but basically avoiding the D, because it clashes with the D sharp, which is implicit in the chord. Now then a number of same chords again come back, and in fact when you look at it, it turns out that you can play almost a complete song in the B minor scale. So with some exceptions that I just explained, and one exception also is the part where there is a C major chord, which is the end, for instance at the end of the intro and the end of the chorus. If you may remember, it goes finally to a C. Now obviously in the C chord you cannot play the B minor, so here you would play a C scale, and in this case you would play probably not the regular C scale but the Lydian mode, because it contains an F sharp, and the F sharp is present in all of the song because it's B minor and related to B minor, so this F sharp is sort of all the time present in the song. So when you play a C scale, you would play a type of mode in C which contains an F sharp. So then you get so if we summarize, the scales that you need is basically B minor natural on almost all parts of the song, except some points where you play this transitional chord, A flat 9, where you would play an altered scale. And with the exception of the C major chord, where you play a C Lydian. And the last exception would be this chord, where you can play the B minor, but preferably not the note D, but where you can also play a B major scale just on this chord alone. But you have to switch back in time, because if you play the D sharp again on the B minor chord, of course you have the same problem. That doesn't work. So you can play from here to here. You can play, in fact, the major and the minor scales. And then going back here, you play. So that's a little bit tricky. If you use this B major scale, be sure you only use it exactly on that chord and nowhere else.